So in the midst of trolls and wonders and kind of a slow hockey day, I'm back. Appreciate the Energy Troll show. I got some energy myself today. So the NHL's announced that the greatest team of all time is the 84-85 Oilers, thus I am dressed as such. Oilers hat, Oilers jersey, Oilers the greatest of all time. And a magazine here, though, that disagrees. And it's interesting because when this magazine came out, I mean, I've discussed it a few times. I had no problem with its rankings. Its number one is the 1976-77 Canadiens. And very simply, it is the most dominant team ever. They ended up with 60 wins, 8 losses, and 12 ties. Now remember, there were no overtimes. That's 60 regulation wins, 8 regulation losses, and 12 ties. This is a team with Guy Lafleur, Steve Shutt, Larry Robinson, Guy Lapointe, Jacques Lemaire, Pete Mahovlich, Doug Risebrough, Yvon Cornwallier, Yvon Lambert, Régis Houle, not a great GM, great player though, Mario Tremblay, not a great coach, but good player, very good two-way player, Serge Savard, Doug Jarvis, Bob Gainey, Murray Wilson, Bill Nyrup, Jimmy Roberts, Pierre Bouchard, not Pierre-Marc Bouchard, Rick Chartrand, and in net they had Kenny Dryden and Michel Bunny Larocque. Now, I think what this comes down to is simple. The 1977 Montreal Canadiens precede my time watching hockey. Yes, I was alive when they were on, but I wasn't quite into the hockey when I was 4. When I had just turned 4, I wasn't quite into the Guy Lafleur, all that. I imagine it would have been on television somewhere. I didn't pay much attention. Guy Lafleur that year had the Art Ross, Conn Smythe, and Hart trophies. So there's Guy Lafleur there. There was an inordinate number of games which we won without a reasonable degree of difficulty. Ken Dryden took time off to go to school. Took a year off from hockey. I think it was 1 year. And Ken Dryden, honestly, for my money, based on his record and based on the fact that when he was out, when he stepped out and said, I'm going to go get myself together, Canadians didn't win that year. They won when he came back. He had an effect on things, and it sort of reminds me of looking at Pittsburgh right now. And people could look at Matt Murray or Marc-Andre Fleury and say, well, yeah, but with that team, anybody could win. And it was said with Grant Fuhr, too. And I'm sure in Ken Dryden's day, it was, well, Dryden's record's great, but look who he played with. Dryden was part of that great team. I don't find a weakness there. Now, the interesting thing to me is the number 2 rated team here is actually the 83-84 Oilers. That was their first Stanley Cup. And I don't have a disagreement with that either. In fact, I find it kind of weird. Like, the number 3 roster they have is 82-83 Islanders, then the 55-56 Canadiens, 51-52 Detroit. Again, the people voting on this, on the greatest team ever, will tend to be younger. 71-72 Bruins are at number 6. 74-75 Flyers at number 7. 2001-2002 Detroit at number 8. 91-92 Penguins at number 9. 62-63 Maple Leafs at number 10. Number 11, 68-69 Montreal. I know they're in here. I promise. I'm not just using this to get to 20 minutes. They're not in here, guys. Number 12, 2000-2001 Avalanche, who were amazing. 38-39 Bruins are at 13. 88-89 Flames are at 14. 12-13 Blackhawks are at 15. So that, at the time they published this, of course, that's the 12-13 Hawks. That's the lockout shortened season. So there was a lot of debate about whether the Hawks were that great, or it was a lockout shortened season, so they had an easier time than other teams. And yeah. 48-49 Maple Leafs coming at number 16. The 07-08 Red Wings at number 17. 06, 07 Ducks at 18, 43, 44 Canadians at 19, 35, 36. They're in here, right? They're in here, right? Maybe they aren't. That would be weird. That'd be really weird. They should be. To me, it would be weird if the team that everybody voted number 1 doesn't make the top 25 in this magazine. They didn't. Yeah, they didn't. In fact, they're not even mentioned. In the runner-up category, when they talk about Edmonton, they talk about the 1990 Stanley Cup. And yeah, that's strange. That's really, really weird. The year they're talking about here, Gretzky had 205 points. I believe he had 212 in 84-85. Gretzky, Coffey, Curry, Messier, Anderson, Linsman, Hughes, Hunter, Lowe, Huddy, Gregg, Lindstrom, Puzar, McClelland, Lumley, Fogelin, Jackson, Don Jackson, Dave Semenko, Grant Fuhr. Grant Fuhr is up that high because he had 14 assists that year in 45 games. 14 assists for a goaltender. Just showing how how great the 80s were. Conacher, Rick Chartraw, and I mentioned this before, Rick Chartraw was on the 83-84 Canadiens, which is the third greatest team ever. And Rick Chartraw was on the 76-77 Montreal Canadiens, the greatest team ever. So Rick Chartraw is one of the greatest players in the history of hockey. It's funny how it works out that way. Ken Berry, Raimo Suminen, Tom Gorrance, Jim Playfair, Mark Habscheid, Gord Shervin, Todd Struby, Andy Moog, who was the backup. I actually had better stats than Grant Fuhr, but I'm not getting into that argument again. So it's funny because I'm going to try to look in here and see if they have any other listing that would say, hey, we considered. But I can see why they would pick the team that won the first Stanley Cup. The New York Islanders had won 19 series in a row. It's not enough to just say, well, the Islanders won 4 straight Stanley Cups. This was their 5th final in a row. I mean, people want to talk about dynasties these days, and, well, doesn't Chicago qualify? Well, doesn't Pittsburgh already qualify? And it's like, the Islanders were in 5 Stanley Cup finals in a row, and they won the first 4. The Oilers won a lot of Stanley Cups between 84 and 1990. That's a dynasty. It will never happen again. I agree. Yeah, the 1983-84 Oilers have stood the test of time as one of hockey's best. Their championship runs of 5 cups in 7 years, and their championship started a run of 5 cups in 7 years and legitimately launched Gretzky into the debate surrounding the all-time best player. But at the time, it was hard for the Oilers to comprehend and put into context just how good they were and where their place in history was. That run of 2 or 3 years in that program was exceptional, Moog said. Looking back now, we probably took ourselves a little bit for granted. It was just an exceptional group. And they did. Everything was casual and fun and partying. And it was the 80s, so there's a lot of partying that went on with those Oilers. So here we are, greatest teams of all time. Magazine put together by the Hockey News. And, of course, people are going to mention on here, well, it's just the Hockey News. What do they know? Well, there's something to be said for the Oilers, I guess. Yeah, it's the only Oilers team that they put in the top 25. I disagree with that. I'll say right now. I disagree with that. I think if you're going to have a top 25 teams of all time, to put the 98-99 Dallas Stars, who ranked 25th on this, ahead of the Oilers in 85 or 87 or 88, I think that's kind of criminal. I do. I think that's borderline criminal. You're really taking for granted just how great those teams were. Maybe when they put this together, they were saying, well, we'll pick the best team from each era. The thing is, they do have the 01-02 Red Wings and then the 07-08 Red Wings in the same countdown. It's one of those things, too, and here's the problem. Here's why I didn't do a video on it, and this is why I'm not really getting into too much on who the greatest of all time is. It's all from different eras. We could sit here now and say, well, the Penguins right now, or the Predators right now, doesn't matter, for the sake of argument, this team would run over the 80s Oilers? No, because the 80s Oilers were a different beast, but if built to play against today's players, there would be a different build in place. In other words, some of the more skill guys that you found in their bottom six would be replaced by bigger guys and tougher guys, and their defense would have been bigger. Like, it is impossible to argue between eras, and I've seen people try to do it, and it's part of the issue when I saw the NHL saying, "Oh, the greatest team, vote for the greatest team of all time." I didn't vote at all because I thought it was ridiculous. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous because Guy Lafleur and Mark Messier, Wayne Gretzky, they sort of played in the same era. At the time that Gretzky and Messier were taken off, Lafleur's career was sort of winding down, and then he came back, but he wasn't the same. But to compare Lafleur in his prime, Gretzky in his prime, Bobby Orr in his prime, Lemieux, you can make any argument you want and be right as to why any one player is better than any other, because there's no way to prove a person wrong in that argument. So while the Hockey News said the 83-84 Oilers were the third greatest team of all time, fans voted and said the 84-85 Oilers were the greatest team of all time. Whereas the Hockey News said the greatest team of all time was the 76-77 Montreal Canadiens. Now, if memory serves, the 76-77 Canadiens got second place on that list. I'm not looking it up. I'm pretty sure they got second place. But it is hard to argue against one thing. 8 losses. And they didn't just win. They stomped people. And I think another thing that's important to remember is, and this is right before the high-flying 80s came in, right before that, Dryden had a 2.14 goals against, and Michel Larocque had a 2.09. Hall of Famers: Cournoyer, Dryden, Legany, Lafleur, Lapointe, Lemaire, Robinson, Savard, Shutt. My God. Yeah, I'm not a Montreal fan, but my God. The Oilers Hall of Famers from the number 2 team, the 83-84 Oilers: Anderson, Coffey, Fuhr, Gretzky, Curry, Messier. And you could make an argument, again, this is where it gets impossible. You could make an argument that the Hall of Famers from that Edmonton team may be smaller in number, but more important in stature than the ones from the Montreal team. And if you're a Montreal fan, you could say Hall of Famer's a Hall of Famer. It really doesn't matter what their stature was. They're all in the Hall of Fame. Both sides are right. So you guys can let me know in the comment section below. You know what I want? The one thing for me is, when we get into these discussions of, greatest teams of all time, I want to see people talk about the greatest teams of all time that maybe got to the final, maybe didn't get to the final. A team that on paper looked fantastic and just missed, or missed entirely. There were Rangers teams that were absolutely fantastic looking on paper in the late 90s, early 2000s, and just couldn't get anything together. Couldn't make the playoffs. And you'd look at their lineup and go, wow, these guys should be great. And then the games would get played and you go, what the hell happened? And this was before salary cap, so they could pay them whatever they wanted, and it just fell apart. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And remember, it's hot for jerseys. It's summertime. It's hot. But I'm doing it because for this, I am acknowledging that the Oilers of the 80s, for my money, were the most entertaining team I ever hated. I couldn't stand them, but my God, they played entertaining hockey. It was, you could not turn away from the screen, because if you turned away, you missed about 3 goals. And it was fantastic to watch Gretzky score some of the goals he did. And to be old enough to remember that hockey and watch the hockey now, I feel very fortunate. So thanks for watching, and I will talk to you again soon. I will be doing more videos tonight. I will be trying to find more topics that are a little bit off the beaten path, because we're getting towards the off season, right? And that's when I try to do things that are different, because everybody else talks about all the same things. So I will be doing my best not to do that. except for draft and free agency, because I'd be insane not to talk about the draft and free agency, right? Thanks for watching.